In this session, I am going to explain pre-romantics age. It's start from 1745 to 1798. Uh, what happened is that people got bored with the new classical style, rhyming, the pattern, and they started switching to the new emotion called romanticism. Here, they started talking about the nature, rustic life, philosophical messages with melancholy. In pre romantics, the movement got started after 1745. They were dealing with nature's beauty, rustic melancholy, and escape and imagination, which were typically romantic tradition. The writers were romantic by their heart, but their style was still neoclassical, means heroic couplet. In short, it is a bridge between neoclassical artificiality and romantic spirits of freedom. Pre romantics is just an age of transition where the neoclassical writers were trying to leave neoclassical tendencies and were trying to switch to something real. Thus, writers were half neoclassical and half romantics. That is why this age is called pre romantics. Pre Romantic age is also known as the age of transition. This age is also called the Third Renaissance in the history of England. First Renaissance is age of Chaucer, second Renaissance is age of Elizabethan, and the third Renaissance is pre-Romantics. Pre-Romantics is the bridge between the Augustus and the Romantics. Pre-Romantics have some similarities of Augustine. It talks about the nature, follows pattern rhyme schemes, and also violates the rhyme scheme. In this era, two movements are going parallel. Some writers like Samuel Johnson, Edward Gibbon, Oliver Goldsmith, who followed Alexander Pope, and some other writers are Ramsay, Thompson, Gray, Blake, Copper, etc. They did not follow Alexander Pope. People started talking about the Whig and Tories. Tories were the upper church class, and Whigs are the lower church class. These two political parties emerged. The literature of revival of learning, like David Hume, talked about enlightenment. Alan Ramsay's work Gentle Shepherd, that came in 1725 but was recognized after 1745. It was a mingling of Augustan style and Romantic style. For example, content is neoclassical and the style is blank verse. This era is pre-Romantic, is also known as Third Renaissance. This was a time when the first industrial revolution was started, and they took nature as their subject. Their literature was learning literature. The first writer of pre-romantics is Dr. Samuel Johnson. He wrote Vanity of Human Wishes, whose opening lines are, let observation with an extensive view survey mankind from China to Perth. Samuel Johnson formed a club known as Literary Club in 1764 with Joshua Reynolds, Oliver Goldsmith, and James George Graham and Edward Gibbon. Johnson wrote about Abraham Cowley in Life of Abraham Cowley. He coined the group Metaphysical School of Poetry. Johnson wrote preface to Shakespeare in 1791. He criticized Shakespeare for using pun quibbles. There is a line that Shakespeare, a quibble to him was a fatal Cleopatra, means Shakespeare was fond of suspense, disguise, keeping secrets, but this is not possible in real life, so his content doesn't have seriousness. Johnson praised Shakespearean tragedy, prose construction, and he also says that Shakespeare is also the one who represent Aristotelian tragedy or the prototype Aristotelian tragedy. Samuel Johnson, whose time is 1709 to 1784. He did not attend any school. He could not go to school. Still, he became a doctor in the university because he was the son of a bookbinder and he would read every book which came to his father. He married a lady 20 years older to him and called it intellectual marriage. But as the Johnson and other writers had the reputation of criticizing each other, critics said that it was a marriage for the money. He got 900 pounds and opened the school and got only one admission, his nephew. His works are he has famously written two books. In The London in 1738, it is a long poem in juvenile third satire in heroic couplet, and Vanity of Human Wishes in 1749. Both of these poems are translations of juvenile satire. Juvenile tenth satire has been translated, where London has criticized and the fruity of materially established life has been criticized. After this, Samuel Johnson's mother was on deathbed. Seeing this, he completed the book to get the money for his mother. And the book is called Rasselas, which is also called Prince of Abyssia. He wrote the ending of this book in very loose way or hastily. Next, he wrote the dictionary in 1755. Samuel Johnson took 8 years to complete this book. Samuel is also called the first lexicographer in English. His patron, philosopher Hope, he has given him money to write the dictionary. Johnson called his dictionary Vasta Mol's Praise, and Erie in 1749, neoclassical style, but it is a blank verse tragedy. Samuel called this work his greatest failure. Then he wrote The Lives of Poets in 1779 to 80. Johnson wrote biography of 52 dead poets who were great in their time. He gave the minute observation of the biographical detail. This book is called the father of biographical criticism. The writers of the time were planning to write a collection of all the great biographies. They approached Johnson as asking his support, but Samuel copied the idea and wrote the preface where he himself completed all the biographies. People didn't read the real book. The preface became famous, which is called Lives of the Poet, published in 1779 to 81. Johnson's famous biographer James Boswell, he was the contemporary, but Samuel didn't mention him, and Boswell licked the foot that kicked him. It is said by Arnold. Dr. Johnson managed to be wrong so cleverly that nobody minds. Then Johnson started writing a magazine in 1750 to 52, Rambler, and then 1758 to 60, Idler. And he also wrote Life of Richard Savage. In this, he criticized Alexander Pope, but Pope didn't reply it. The next writer is Edward Gibbon, whose time is 1737 to 1794. Edward Gibbon is famously called modern historian of ancient Rome. He lived the college life that was very frustrated and hated the corruption and the Constitution of Liberty of the college. He wrote The Decline and the Fall of Roman Empire, got published in 1786. He discusses the Roman Empire from the height of Roman Empire to the fall of Constantinople, and Constantinople is also Byzantium. Here he compiled the Roman history in 10 years. Edward Gibbon's famous reference has been used by R.C. Stevenson in his famous essay Alodros is Land of Gold. The next writer is Edmund Burke. He was a member of parliament. He is famous for his very contradictory statements. He was against American slavery, French Revolution, and slavery or the colonization of Ireland. Means he was against the general ideas of British colonization. Edmund Brooks is the first person who has defended the American Revolution and criticized British slavery in France, Ireland, and in other countries. He defended this thing in the book Vindication of Natural Society. It got published in 1754. also known as the view of the miseries and evils arising to mankind. It is also called first literary expression of philosophical anarchism, said by William Godwin, father-in-law of P.B. Shelley. P.B. Shelley, also known for only purely philosophical work. The philosophical enquiry into sublime, wrote at the age of 19, and a reflection on French Revolution in 1774 on American taxation, talks about heavy taxes laid by Britain on America that resulted in a revolution. The next writer is Thomas Gray, whose time period is 1716 to 1771. He is the best friend of Horace Walpole, and Gray bridge between neoclassical and romantics. The famous work is Ode to Spring, which was published in 1748. Ode on the distant prospect of Eton College in 1748. His famous line is, "Where ignorance is bliss, it's folly to be wise." Ode on the death of his favorite contemporary Horace Walpole in 1748. It is a funny poem, deals with the cat of Horace Walpole. He has two cats, Selima and Zara. Selima drawn in an aquarium, written in heroic couplet, and Selima once found a golden fish in the aquarium and she wanted to eat it, so she jumped into the aquarium, but it was on of an oval shape, so she could not came out and died. The famous line is, "What female's heart can despise gold, what cat can over the fish?" And the last line is, "All that glitter is not gold." Then he wrote Elegy, written in Country Churchyard in 1751. It is said that the elegy was going to be the best elegy of the world, was written in a humorous way. The question arises is that why this elegy is different from other elegy. Here Gray mourns on the whole generation, and none of them was personally known to the writer. The opening lines of this poem are, "Curfew tolls and the knell of parting day, and the plugman plods his weary way." The question arises is that where do we have transferred epithet? Weary way is transferred epithet. Uh, Transferred epithet means transferred adjective. Weary farmer. In this, weary is an adjective. The famous lines are, "Let not ambition and mock their useful toil, they homely joys, all as all beauty, wealth, all paths of glory lead us but to the grave." Next he wrote is Progress of Poesy in 1754, published in 1757. The Bard is published in 1757. It is the first creative work of Celtic revival, uh, related to Irish revival of early medieval style, and this was promoted by Thomas Gray. Thomas Gray is the only person after Abraham Cowley to spot Pindaric odes. Matthew Arnold said that Pindaric odes were supported by Thomas Gray, but he thought out got rejected by public. The next writer is William Collin. His time is 1721 to 1759. His first play is Ode to the Evening, which was published in 1746. Here is the a beautiful description of evening, where he calls evening chaste Eve, miskissed Eve, and nymph river. Three names were given to evening, and he personified evening. Persian eclogues in 1742, also known as Oriental eclogue. Then he wrote Ode to Pity, Ode on the Death of Thompson, Ode to Fear, Ode to Simplicity, Ode on the Popular Superstition of Highland of Scotland in 1788. The next writer is Oliver Goldsmith, whose time is 1728 to 1774. He was a tramp and coon. He was travelling and wandering in London. One day, Oliver could not pay his rent, and his landlady house arrested him. He called Samuel Johnson, and Johnson came and requested to lady to free him. But lady was ambitious, so Johnson asked Goldsmith to give whatever he has, and he gave Johnson a manuscript of a book to be published and got £66. Then he got released. Oliver Goldsmith wrote next day a satire on lady, and that book Goldsmith gave to Johnson to get freed got published as Vicar of Wakefield. Next, he wrote A Deserted Village in 1770. It deals with the condition of brain drained. He talks about the youth, those who have left village are going to the cities without understanding the demerits of city life, and they are ignoring the pleasure of rustic life. It is inspired by an incident when rich people remove the whole colony of poor people to make a big garden. Next, he wrote is She Stoops the Conqueror in 1773. Subtitle of the book is Mistake of the Night. It has a couple. Mr. Marlowe falls in love with Miss Hardcastle, but as Hardcastle is very rich and belongs to aristocratic family, Mr. Marlowe is very nervous. When the lady realizes that Mr. Marlowe is nervous to show his love because of his high standard, she disguises herself in barmaid and starts flirting with the boy and wins the love. A funny character is lady's cousin Tony Limpkin. After that, he wrote Citizen of the World. It is in epistolary form, where a Chinese traveler he visits in London and he is writing letter to his friend who is in China. This is in the form of a letter collection about his experiences in London. His name is Ling Chi Atangi. Subtitle is A Tale Supposed to be Written by Himself. And after that, he written Vicar of Wakefield. It is the first pre-romantic novel dealing with the domestic life. The next writer is William Cowper, whose time is 1731 to 1800. One of the most mystic poet of this age, the best modern poet, it is said by S.T. Coleridge. And after that, he wrote Negro's Complaint in 1788. This is the first anti-slavery poem written by any Britisher. It is often quoted by Martin Luther Jr. And he also wrote verses supported to be written by Alexander Selwyn. Alexander Selwyn, who got lost in the sea and lived in an island for 1 year and came safely, so it inspired many writers to write about him. Daniel Defoe, Robin Crusoe wrote about him in opening lines of the poem are I am the monarch of all I survey, my right is there none to dispute. Next, he wrote Timepiece. It is the form of collection task. There is a line in this poem that reflects the poet. There is a pleasure in poetic pain which only poets know. Coleridge called him the best modern poet. After that, he wrote Yardley Oak. This poem is being praised by Wordsworth. After that, he wrote The Sofa. This is the poem from the collection of Task. Task has a line God made the country and man made the town. After that, he wrote The Light Shining Out of Darkness in 1773. The best line is God moves in mysterious ways. After that, he wrote on the receipt of my mother's portrait. In this poem, he receives his mother's picture after around 59 years of her death, and he says, oh, those rosy lips has a tongue. The next writer is Robert Burns, who is a Pullman poet. wrote verses supposed to be written in the Scottish Highland in 1786. It is the greatest work that had been compared to Spencer's Stefford's Calendar, published in 1579. After that, he wrote To a Mouse, To a Louse, Tom a Shelter, To the Mountain Daisy, Halloween, My Love is Like Red Rose, A Fond Kiss. The next writer is William Blake, whose time is 1757 to 1827. In 2002, a survey was done in England, and William Blake was ranked in 38th number in 100 Great Britons. William Rossetti called Blake glorious luminary. William Blake was very creative. He is the one who invented engraved printing using the watermarks. He was against organized religion. He is famously called the seminal figure of history of romantics. He has summed up the entire pre-romantic poem in his work. This is why he is called romantic poet. He wrote poetical sketches in 1783. He never published these works. Copies were destroyed by fire. Next, he wrote the Songs of Innocence in 1789. It talks about the Milton's paradise, and the symbolic message is the happiest stage, the innocent stage of life. There are 19 poems in this book. The next is Songs of Experiences in 1795. This talks about the fall, means that we have lost the innocence in Songs of Experience. 26 poems are there. Tiger, London, Chimney Sweeper, Slam, and Island in the Moon, which was published in 1784. Symbolic work. It is a prose. It is a first satirical work, and it has been praised by W.B. Yeats. W.B. Yeats called it William Blake's first true symbolic work. After that, he wrote the Book of Tale in 1789, and after that, he wrote French Revolution in 1791, The Marriage of Heaven and Hell in 1793. It is based on biblical prophecy, just like Dante. William Blake also takes a visit of hell in this book. And after that, he wrote The Vision of the Daughter of Alibin in 1793. It has the allegory of cave, which is used by Plato in his criticism. Female character Othone. Othone has been called soft soul of America. And some lines are here from his personal life. William Blake participated in garden raids where they attacked Newgate prison and set them fire. It happened in June 1780, and the result of garden raids were first police force created after this. The next writer is Thomas Carlton, whose time is 1752 to 1770. He was the youngest romantic poet. He committed suicide at the age of 17. He wrote Rowley poems. It is based on Thomas Rowley, an imaginary monk. He wrote Bristol Tragedy. When he published these works, Edinburgh Review and other magazines, they started criticizing him, and this accused him plagiarism. This is the reason he committed suicide, by drinking arsenic. But Chafron has been famously praised by John Keats. He called him the purest poet. Wordsworth called him marvelous boy. Shelley has praised him in Andes along with the John Keats. Chafron was a fan of Horace Walpole and Thomas Gray. He kept on requesting Walpole to be his guide, but Walpole insulted him for his work, and Walpole was the last hope for him. The next writer is James Mathson. He is the Scottish writer. His famous works are dealing with the Highland Romance of Scotland, also called Gaelic Romance. His famous work is Temora in 1763. It is an ancient epic poem. After that, he wrote Fingal in 1762, means white stranger. Dr. Samuel Johnson criticized him for his work Temura and Fingal. His poems are also called the example of Ossiism. Ossian was the hero, and the poem is celebrating the life of the Scottish hero. The next writer is Thomas Tracy. Eh, he is famous for his work Relics in 1765. It is one of the great ballad collection, and it is also called Relics of the Ancient English Poetry. Here, Thomas Tracy collected all the unauthenticated Anglo-Saxon poem and got them published together. The famous poem in theme is Casey Chase, Nut Brown's Maid, Robin Hood, and Wandering Sue. After that, James Thomson, who is also known as the father of Pre-Romanticism, came into the age. The famous work is Seasons, which was from 1726 to 1730. It has four books: winter, summer, spring, and autumn. After that, he wrote Rule Britannica in 1740 in heroic couplet. It is a patriotic song which was used by Royal Navy of Britain. After that, he wrote The Castle of Indolence in 1748 as Gothic elements. Indolence is a dragon. Now see the novelist of pre-romantic era. The first is Daniel Defoe, whose time is 1660 to 1731. His actual name is Daniel Foy, but he added D. Uh, he wrote Robinson Crusoe, published in 1719. It is called the first precarious novel. Now, what is precarious novel? When a story or novel deals with the journey of a wanderer wrong, means a hero is introduced as a criminal or some disobedient, and the one who has no vision in his life, no goal in his life, and he takes a journey where he comes to know about his own talent, motives, and becomes a hero in the story. In Robinson Crusoe, he found a man on the island. Why did he name him Friday? Because that man found on Friday, and that was the symbol of God who was with him. After that, he wrote Captain Single in 1720, Moll Flander in 1722. It is the first precarious book where the female protagonist has been used. Daniel supported William III against the xenophic charges and wrote to protect him, the true born Englishman, in 1701. It is a satirical poem. The famous line is, "Thus from a mixture of all kinds of begin that heterogeneous thing, an Englishman." Daniel Defoe once wrote something and it troubled the king. Then king punished him. The punishment was, Daniel Defoe will be tied by some stone and everybody has to throw stones at him. Then Daniel Defoe wrote a poem on this humanitarian and circulated it, and he said in this poem that I am lucky I will be killed by my own people or friends. Every stone will bring their love on me. I would welcome all the stones from my friends. And then Theophile didn't throw stone and started celebrated him. King has to release him. The next writer is Samuel Richardson, whose famous play is Pamela. It is also called The Virtue Rewarded, published in 1742. It is an apple history novel. After that, he wrote Clarissa, The History of Young Lady, in 1747. It is the longest novel tragedy. The next writer is Tobias Hamlet, whose time is 1721 to 1771. He was a surgeon from Scotland, and The Adventures of Roderick Random, published in 1748. It is based on his own experience as a naval surgeon. His precarious style is remarkable. Based on Cavendish Donquist. Donquist means who is good in words but not in deeds. The Adventures of Sir Peregrine Pickle. It is a satire on the human frivolity. The next writer is Lawrence Sterne, whose time is 1713 to 1768. His famous work is Life and Opinion of Christian Shandy the Gentleman, written in 1759, written in modern and postmodern techniques. It has 9 volumes. It has no story, but all the postmodern techniques like double narratives and unreliable narrator, digressions, shifting narratives. There is no hero till 3 books. Hero takes birth in fourth book. After every event, there is an authorical note. Author guides, justifies everything in his appearance. This book is also known as the first postmodern novel. And the next writer is Henry Fielding, who is also known as father of English novels. His famous 2 books are Joseph Andrew. It is famously called comic epic in prose. Henry himself called it published in 1742 based on Don Quixote. It is also called the brother novel of Pamela. Famous character is Parson Adam. The second is Tom Jones. Its complete title is Tom Jones, a Foundling. Here, Tom Jones lives a life and he is involved in various affairs. Uh, there are many female characters from Tom Jones had affair. Henry Fielding's famous newspaper is Campaign, where Henry wrote articles using the pseudonym of Hercules. Now let's see the pre-romantic drama. The first pre-romantic drama writer is Colley Cibber. He is known related to restoration comedy, and he has the one who implemented the restoration standard. His works are Love Makes a Man, Love Shift, also known as Virtue Rewarded, and Xerxes. It is just tragedy. After the next dramatists is John Lillo, whose famous work is London Merchant, which was published in 1731, and Fatal Curiosity, published in 1736. The next writer is John Gay, and his famous work is The Beggar's Opera, which was published in 1728. This work deals with the corruption of underworld. Theme is rich class is a real criminal. John Gay has been praised for his writing skills. After that, the next writer is Susanna Centreville. She wrote 16 successful plays. The famous work is The Vendor. She keeps a secret, A Bold Stroke for a Wife. The next writer is Richard Sheridan, whose famous play is Tunica. It is a comic opera. It is a 3-act opera dealing with the Don Throm. Lord Byron called it the best opera ever written. Next is A Trip to Scarborough, which was published in 1777. After that, he wrote Rivals, which was published in 1775. Heroine is Lydica Languish, and Mrs. Malprop. She has a habit of mispronouncing the word that causes comedy. Now the question arises is that who has coined the term malapropism? Is Lord Byron. The next is School for Scandal. This book has an epilogue which was written by George Coleman the Elder, and this dialogue was spoken by the Lady Teazle, has a bawdy form Othello. After that, he wrote Handbuck Moray, In Search of Happiness, and The Fatal Falsehood. And in the pre-romantic era, the Gothic novels are also came in the appearance. The word Gothic has been taken from the medieval architecture. Gothic novel originally attributed to the Horace Walpole. Horace Walpole is also called the father of Gothic novels. His famous work is Castle of Otranto, which was published in 1764. Subtitle of the book was The Gothic Story. He wrote Clara Leaf, the Old English Baron, in 1778. And the next writer is Annie Radcliffe. She made Gothic novels socially accepted. She used a Byronic hero in Gothic fiction. The famous books are The Mysteries of Ulflonosa in 1794 and The Italian in 1977. The next writer is Matthew Lewis. He is called Monk Lewis. When he wrote Monk in 1796, it dealt with black magic, and the way he described it, it very scary, and the people started calling him Monk Lewis. Some other books which have Gothic elements are Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, also called Modern Prometheus. This book has a devil who had made of bone. And the next is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, La Bella Dane Sans de Mercy by Keats, The Pot of Basil by Keats, and Jastrow by P.B. Shelley, and Jane Eyre by Charles Bronte. And John Austen is in her famous book Northern Abbey made fun of Gothic novels. Except Daniel Defoe, Richardson, Hamlet, Sterne, and Fielding are called four wheels of a van of English novels. It is said by Dr. Johnson. And Tom Thumb the Great, it is also known as the Tragedy of Tragedies. It is also a Gothic novel. So that's all about the pre-romantic age. Thank you so much for listening so carefully. If you like my video, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.